All right, so according to the layout for our class, again, remember that we're behind on a couple of things and we're also ahead on a couple of things. Remember that what we're going to do here is combine the lava, the eruption, the bubbles, and put them together for a volcano project. And so, and we'll start that today, right? We're going to start that today, but we're also going to just talk about this laser blasts here. And so we're ahead. We're working ahead a little bit. Again, I don't place a huge amount of weight on the shattering glass or breaking of the rock. I just kind of, it's easy enough to do. You just kind of have to, look at it. It's not the most spectacular special effect. And jet exhaust, if you're imagining it, is that if you had the idea that a jet was going across the sky, one way to handle this would be is to just kind of draw the thing and make it really, really wide in terms of the stage, and then just copy and paste it and drag it along the line. It's really not that difficult. It's one of the easiest things to do. If you're being paid a phenomenal amount of money, one thing that you could do is at the very end of it, have the little smoke dissipate away. I have this open because here's what I was looking at in my Harmony file. Is the laser blast. So what I had done was just talked about the idea of in a game, lasers are part of half of the games out there. And what I had bringing this thing in here, just like a jet contrail, is very similar to a laser blast. Is that in order for something to work, you have a delay. So I have 24 frame delay on just nothing being there, and then all of a sudden it comes in order for whatever you want in animation to read, it's got to enter the screen a little bit past the safe zone, the action safe area. So you can see that I've got it coming in off the action safe area, and then on the next frame it grows a little bit, it gets a little bit more. I have it on 2s, and it goes all the way off the screen. And this is what I meant about the little dissipating behind the jet contrail itself. All right, and so then I have a bunch of other things turned off on here, but if I play it, so watch the difference. All right, so what I have is that there's, see how slow it's moving right there? It's very strange. In my example here, I have a couple of things that are being demonstrated, and one of those is the speed of things. And in the speed of things, for like this layer right here, this is in front. And so if I have a laser blast that is really, really, really close to the camera, I'm going to interrupt that action safe area and bring in something that's just really close to the camera on this frame, and then on this frame it's right in the middle, and then in the next frame I could just see the tail end of it, and that is about as fast as you could get something to move in animation. It's because it's really close to camera, and if you want it to move in any particular direction, then start it coming in really fast, and then there it is, and then so now it appears to move from one place to the other. Now this one, it's just left and right. And so that's, as it plays, you can see that, and you're not going to actually see this because my Toon Boom is misbehaving. Right here starts the middle one, and then there's the big one up front. And so, but let me play the QuickTime movie so you can actually see the timing. All right, you see what I'm looking at there? So that's like outtake of the speed of things. If we were going to do a laser blast of two characters that were 50 meters or 100 meters away from us, and they were just blasting from left to right, you might see more frames. You might see 12, 16 different frames of one character shooting from one part of the screen to the other. So this example here, come on, Toon Boom. Yeah, something's wrong with this file too. Oh, I see it. So this one. All right, so let me explain. So you saw this, you already saw this. So let me explain the plasma blast here. And the plasma blast is in the demo, I've got 12 frames of nothing. And then the plasma comes in. And here I've got just a shape. I probably have just a little bit too much wiggle on this. As the shape enters the screen, it's entering the screen quite a bit into the action safe area. And so if I wanted to jazz this up just a little bit more, I could put another copy of this on this frame. And so here, I'll just do that for you right now. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to go to this frame and put a blank frame right there, and I'm just going to paste it, and I'm just going to move it to the left right there. I think that because this thing is moving fast enough, again, the idea is if I overlap them a little bit, they won't strobe. If I wanted to flip this, I might get a little bit of extra wiggle in it. Then if I go to this frame right here and just put in a blank frame right here, and then just put it in the same orientation, but just coming in from the screen, you should see that it's going to have more of a continuous kind of motion to it. And so once again, I think that this thing is just, it's not moving at the correct speed. So let me show you what it looks like. So you saw that adjustment. Let me show you what it looks like. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. All right, I'm gonna have to give this movie a different name. This is gonna be G. Let's go into the desktop, say okay. And remember too that I only discovered this latency during class last week. All right, so in this version here, you can see everything that's playing. You can see the little plasma blast. The thing that caught my eye here was that this little tail sticks right here. So let me explain. So the plasma blast comes in, right? That's the new one I did. That's the new one I did. That was the position of the original. And you can see that what I've done is left a little bit of plasma behind it that's just dissipating a little bit. But the problem is if I put my cursor right here, everyone see where my cursor is? That as this little plasma comes in, this little tail sticks right here. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do a really quick adjustment. I'm gonna go back into Toon Boom, and I'm gonna zero in just on that little spot right there. And so this one's working. If I turn my onion skin on, I can see that there's a little overlap right there. Let me move this to the right. There's a little bit of overlap right there, which works. It just it takes away from the strobing. But I think that this one here on this particular frame, I'm just going to take my eraser, and again I'm going to check my eraser settings. I've got 30 pixels selected, and so this tail needs to kind of move along with it. And so if I've got the tail moving in a scaled 2 inches or so, then this one would appear to be moving backwards. So I'm just going to obliterate this part of the tail. Maybe not that much. Oh, this one's okay. It's this one. On this one right here, this one is where it looks like it's going backwards. So I'm just going to obliterate about that much of the tail. So let's go backwards. And I'm going to put my cursor right here. And so now it's moving a good scaled 2 inches. Now it's going backwards. So I need the tip of this to be like over here. And it's good that I'm showing you all how to make a mistake here and how to fix it. And then this would be going backwards as well. So I'm just going to kill this. All right, and then this one is where it was hit. So in my demonstration here, I intentionally made a mistake so that you can see what the actual, I mean, it looked like it was going backwards. So once again, this is what it looked like. Right there, see how see how it's like stuck in space right there? And that's weird, and you don't want that. So the new version, and I'm not going to even play it, I'm just going to render a movie. And we're going to call this one H. All right, let's go over and find our H. And now you should see a very pronounced movement from left to right. And you can see that I forgot to erase a little bit of it right there. See it, like that little bit right there? All right, so this demonstration here is just the speed of things. How fast can you get something to move? The plasma blast here that I did has a little bit of undulation to it, a little bit of curve in this particular frame. You know, you can see that there's a little curve in there, and that's just to make it interesting. The idea of using straight lines is certainly okay. In this particular example, and I posted another one last night. In this particular example, there's a lot of things going on in this one. This one has just got more of a energetic kind of feel to it. And you can just imagine that there's a concentric rings that are moving out, the apparent motion from left to right. It's really quick. There's just a little bit of the kind of the look that I've got, and then pixie dust at the end of it. The pixie dust comes together, it creates the plasma blast. There's little sparks on the right. This is interesting. One of the things that you may want to do is, after looking at something like this, is use this for your final. The actual production of this is actually really simple, but just train yourself to look and see what your eye is observing. Again, the pixie dust comes together, it creates the concentric circles that are in perspective. There's a little bit of cycling happening where the blast actually goes out, hits the other orb, it just wiggles around a little bit, and then it becomes pixie dust. The other one that I posted was this one. And this is interesting just because it doesn't look like plasma. It looks more like an orb. It looks like more of, it's interesting. So we can just talk about a couple other things here. This is the contrail up here, where it's just going across this, and it looks like I didn't. Oh, I see what I did. So in this one, I kind of alluded to the demo that if you were to look at a jet leaving a contrail across the sky, sometimes it lingers up there for a long time. It's not anything more than just doing a couple of frames and observing it and then getting it to move from left to right. The other thing in the demo is that right here, when the plasma blast hits, is that I've given these things more of a fire look right here. more of a organic kind of shape to them. I've given like red and orange or red and yellow. I don't think that it's the most interesting, but you can also see that I've added these little sprites, these little straight lines right there. If I could identify the blast, I'm gonna take the transparency down a little bit on this. I'm gonna bring it up. All right, and so these guys are just really fast. The first frame that, oh, I'm sorry, hold on. So the first frame that we see of the, oh, I just jumped layer. So the first frame that we see the plasma blast hitting, one thing that I might want to adjust here just is, I'm going to use that color right there, is that this one hits. And so the one thing that you would want to do maybe is just get the shape of this. And what I would use maybe is a couple of triangles or a couple of thin to thick lines right there. And on the very next frame, just get those guys to go all the way out as far as you can get. If you were using Unity or Maya, you maybe want to make those straight, because the particles, the plasma is moving so fast that it couldn't be anything else except really straight. In order to get that one right there to look like it's moving off the screen, you would just overlap it just a little bit. On this one, you would want to get this one to overlap just a little bit. And I'm using pressure, so I'm trying to get a thickness in the middle. And then maybe on this frame, there's one more up here, just so that your eyes, it leads your eye off the screen. And then what we see that what we've added here is a principal blast, and now there's a second one. So let's take a look at this. Oh, it's not behaving, hold on. All right, so let's just call this one an eye movie. And so now what we're looking for is that timing of that little bit that I just put in there. So what we're looking at is we're looking for the timing of, nope, before that, right? Right there, right, no, right there, these guys right here. And so one of the reasons why these guys look like they do is because I drew them as these shapes right here, but there is a note on this, there's a glow on it. And so if I turn my flower on my render mode on, I can see that now they look like that. And that's just what it is. So here, that example just explains the timing of what a blast would look like. And I think it's interesting right now that there's two blasts. One is really fast, the other's one's faster, one's fast. So the first one's really, really fast as you could make it on ones, and then the second one is just fast. All right, so that's plasma blast. It's just really easy. In fact, I probably over-explained it. If you ask me, I've probably over-explained it. All right, so what I would like to do now is perfect. Okay, thanks. Anybody in the chat? No one's in the chat. Okay, good. Yeah, I noticed the other day that there's been like 35 hits on some of these demos that I do. I was like, I was pleased. All right, so all I did right there is I just renamed my background layer. And once again, we're just in terms of the recording, we're kind of just going off, this is just a really simple example. You know, something like this, this artist is saying, yeah, you could do this. You could say that I could do my smoke like this. but it is really too symmetrical. It's too parallel. It's not fun. Uh, it's easier to animate, but whatever. I like this one better. All right, so
Do
let's
you want to
kind of,
share your screen?
am I not sharing my screen with you?
Yeah.
God, I
It's
should be
okay, we'll get
punished.
there.
I should be punished, right? There we go. All right, so again, we're just going to kind of use this as a pretty good example. I might even let's like simplify it a little bit more, because I think that this artist here has taken into account just the idea of the aesthetics of drawing the smoke. But I'm not quite sure that she took into account where all the parts move from and to. Because I think that it can be simplified just a little bit more, just to lay it out properly. Okay, so no, I would love that if Toon Boom had a cinematic thirds thing here. I thought that there might have been something under the guides. All right, it doesn't matter. All right, so what we're going to do is on this background layer, we're just going to kind of draw out. Actually, let me do this correctly. I'm going to bring up another drawing layer, and I'm just going to call this my layout layer, so that I can get an idea of where everything is going to belong. And this is just a demo, so my left cinematic third is right here. I'm using a black color, which is fine just for the layout. I'm just double checking here. I think this is fine. I'm just going to put a crosshair there. I'm going to switch to a blue color. I'm going to give it a animator's light blue color. We can always change that later. All right, so I'm going to get this in my eye. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 little puffs of smoke. And so I'm just going to kind of roughly imitate what I'm seeing there. I'm also going to kind of draw an arc to give me an idea of how those little puffs of smoke are moving. It's got a left and right feel to it. I'm also going to kind of, and now I'm not always really successful at finding this next example, but let's see if we can pull it off. One of my favorite animation textbooks is the Timing for Animation by John Hallis and Harold Whitaker. This book is like one of my favorite animation texts, like of all time. Every single page is a different project. Every single page is a different thing to work on to understand the timing and spacing. Here's flags. I think I might have even used this one when we were talking about our flags. But let me just take a look at smoke here and see if we can get this to work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Here's the water splash from that book. And here's a really nice example of like a campfire that someone's done. I haven't seen that one before. It's nice, it's pretty good. It's kind of moving a little fast. Hold on a second. All right, so what I'm looking for is the smoke. Yeah, I might see it. So let's just go back to Harmony. All right, on this layout layer, where we're also going, well, one of the things that John Hallis and Harold Whitaker talk about a lot is just a really, really good example of timing. I mean, this book, again, I think that this book just like takes something that's really simple and explains it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little red crosshair here for where I believe the center line of these little smoke things should be. I'm also going to go back here and realize that the idea of smoke and fire, they kind of belong in the same category of timing, where the smoke, if it's moving along this kind of an arc right here, it usually moves a little quicker in this area right here, and then it slows down. So if I drew, just like if I pulled this little arc over here and I put it right here, if I were to just use this, if I were to just use this template, this distance right here is bigger than this distance right here. And so I would need to put this one right here at least to slow it down. So I'm going to just put another mark right here to slow it down. And so that slows it down. In order to slow it down correctly, I'm going to draw in this nasty green right here, the in-between of this little puff of smoke to this bigger puff of smoke. So I'm going to look at this line right here and this line right here, and I'm just going to in between that right there. So that gives me the lower. I'm going to change that just a little bit because I don't want that line to be on top. I want to be able to see it. So I'm going to put it like right here. If I put it right here, it's closer to this one, and then it might appear to speed up. And so I'm going to change my mind, and I'm going to put it right here in this open space. All right, so then I'm going to take this line, which I'm just going to use a little dot, and I'm going to imagine that this cloud over here is like this big, and that dot has moved to this position, and the in-between would be, if direct in-between, exact half would be somewhere about right here. And so this little puff of cloud, it might look like this. And again, I'm kind of playing with my aesthetic. What I want to do is I'm just going to draw an oval first, a little scratchy little oval, and then I'm going to manipulate that oval to get the inside and outside shapes. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself some really bright yellow color. And again, we're just on the layout layer here. I'm going to put like a little dotted line that is going to be a guide for the upper and lower parameters of the smoke itself. So this is just the tube, the three-dimensional tube that the smoke is going to live in. And that just kind of makes sense that the smoke is going to live right there. All right, and then on the layout layer, I mean, I kind of like this. It's simple enough. The more I start drawing on top of this, the more complicated it can become. But let's see if we can get away with just emulating that idea of getting the little extra floaty bits of smoke in there. And so in this example, I see that there's one here, and then there's another one here. But the thing is if you're going to animate this, you need to have it belong in relation to each one of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a small little bit here, and then remembering that this is the same cloud smoke as this one. This one is the same as this one. This one moves into this position and then up here. And so it's basically the same puff of cloud. In order to get this to loop with 8 or 16 drawings, this little puff of smoke needs to repeat itself. And so I'm just going to copy it here. I'm just going to copy it here, make it a little bigger, maybe change the shape a little bit. I'm going to jump back to the green shape, and maybe this one, maybe in this key right here, it breaks apart. Now it's two pieces, and then back into this position. Now, even though it's off the screen mostly, I'm going to draw it in here anyway, because we have to account for all these frames here in the middle. Then on the layout layer, I'm going to make sure that maybe it is or has a little bit of extra tracking. It goes outside that tube, that little three-dimensional tube, just a little bit. You can do the same thing on the top if you want, but let's just start with this one. All right, so that's my layout. On my layout, in a black color, what I'm going to do here is put in a half and the quarter marks for each one of the positions for the cloud, at least the center point of the cloud. And I'm going to number them so we don't get confused. So we do need to track the bottom of this big blue one here off the screen. And so I'm just going to copy these distances. I'm just going to go like this and like this and like this and like this, because we probably need that many drawings of this edge of the smoke right here to get it off the screen. And it is slowing down a little bit, so that's good. It's moving a little quicker right here. That's good. This is where the wind blows it. And I can see that because there's just a little bit of extra distance in the positions. So that'll work out just fine. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to number this. This is position number 1. You can use number 1. So let's just use drawing number 1. And I'm going to guess that this is going to be 8 drawings and that we probably need to do intermediate positions. So with this color here, it may be that we need to do a total of 8 drawings. And I'm just going to divide each one of these distances up by half. And remember, this doesn't mean that you're doing all of these drawings. This does not, these positions do not mean that you are doing 32 or 48 drawings. What it means is that this is just the position for probably a total of 8 different drawings. So let's go back and number. There's going to put this on 2s. So this would be drawing number 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. So for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drawings. Oh, and 8. So this is 15 right here. This little purple line is 15. I'm going to darken in the breakdown position. I'm going to circle the key position. In animation, keyframes are always circled, and breakdown drawings always have an underline underneath them. So in order to identify the breakdown more clearly here, I'm going to darken in the breakdown positions so we don't lose track of them. I could also put a little line underneath it, even just the graphics, so I remember that those are my breakdown positions. And so the breakdown position is something's not right here. Hold on a second. Oh, that's right. Okay. All right, so this is a key position. So I go key, and then this one right here would be the breakdown position. So there's 1, 2, 3 drawings between the breakdown and the key position. The red is the key position. So that means that this is the breakdown position. And so if I just wanted to draw number 9 with an underline on it for all of the breakdown positions, just to make a visual reference. So drawing number 9 will look like that. Remember, we're drawing an 8-frame cycle here. All right, so that looks good. Those of you who are using that rough animator application realize that you can put an opacity on each layer independently, which is kind of nice. Otherwise, in Toon Boom, you'd have to take all these colors that you're using for your layout and adjust the color of each one of those, or the transparency for each one of those, just independently, which is fine. You can do that. It's basically the same thing. It's more control. You just kind of have to remember which colors you're using for the layout, and that you don't use those for your actual work. Let's do the same thing for the yellow position. And a lot of times what you can do here is that if you know you're using all of these for your layout, in the Toon Boom application, just grab the colors and move them so that all of the layout colors that you're using, which all have a different outfit on them, are in the same order. Remember that I got these to have the names on top of them, which is easier to understand by right-clicking and just saying swatch mode. If I turn this off, this is way too hard to look at. So I just right-click in this little area and say swatch mode. It's much easier to understand. All right, so this blue color here, let's see if I accidentally use this color somewhere. And I didn't. So this color here, I'm going to change to rough. And I'm just going to use that as my rough color. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up a new drawing layer, and we're just going to, this is going to be our smoke layer. Oops, spell it right, Billy. Smoke, add and close. Remember too, I didn't mention this to you, everything should be a vector. You really have a very rare instance where you want to be drawing in bitmap, and you should know the difference. Everything that we do should be a vector. That way it's infinitely scalable. All right, so this looks good. And remember that you do get a little bit of that change in transparency when you switch to another layer in Toon Boom. All right, so let's define our first key. And again, a lot of times what you can do is you can bring up this one. You can find some other more interesting shapes in smoke. Let's go over to our board here. Actually, let's go rogue and just do smoke here. Let's change it to drawing and bring up some images. And let's just find some, this would be interesting. You're welcome to try some stylistic shapes within the smoke itself, or even using straight lines. I think that, just leave that one sit there. Obviously, if I'm using all these little spirals, it could get way out of control trying to animate those with all the little intricate details, but it might be interesting. Let's bring up another one, do the same thing, just so we can tab back over to it. All right, let's pick something that's a little bit more realistic. This looks like our example, so let's pass on that one. Let's see what happens if we cross-reference it. This is interesting here. There's some great smoke in Iron Giant, so let's, yeah, there's some good ones here. So this is interesting here. I like this one. Let's just pick this one, even though that there's a change of the line here. That what happens in the movie here is that whatever is moving from lower left screen to upper right is that it left this little contrail, but there's some really nice shapes in there. So let's just leave that one sit there. It also gives you a really fine amount of detail, what the shadow of the cloud is looking like. It's very nice. This is really a good example of very big shapes, medium shapes, small, really small, and intricate detail. So I like that. All right, so in our example here with this rough color, we're just gonna start to define our shape. And I'm just gonna give myself an exterior curve. And I'm gonna give myself a smaller shape. And I'm gonna make a medium shape right here, a really small one. And I'm gonna try this idea of making an inside curve. Like you don't have to have, here's an inside curve right here. Here's an inside curve. Remember that whenever I talk about an inside curve, let's say that we have a bone. We're doing life drawing. And an outside curve is a curve that moves away from the center line of the bone. And an inside curve is a line that moves towards the bone. So this is a compound curve. So whenever I say outside curve and inside curve, that's what I mean. So for this, the arc of motion for the smoke itself, this is an inside curve. All right, I'm gonna put an outside curve right here, a medium one. And then we're gonna borrow this whole big shape right here. And remember, we're just doing a rough, so I'm gonna keep my lines somewhat clean, a really small one right here. Let's try an inside curve again right here. And remember that this inside curve will probably animate into each other. So, oh, I don't want to do that. So let's make this one. And then we're going to follow this shape. Remember, we're just now, oh, hold on. We have to now do the green one, even though the green was. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to make this more bluish so that we know that it's a keyframe and not some weird breakdown. I know that was important. So I have to now, oh, I'm using the wrong color. So the smoke gets compressed together. We lose this little negative space. We lose that inside curve right here. It just goes away. And remember that that's entirely possible. Smoke can do many things. So this oval shape moves into this oval shape, and we're already drawing it up here. In order to just paint this, I'm gonna, and this is a, even though this is a rough frame, I'm just gonna paint two lines outside the area that I'm drawing. All right, now let's get the bottom of this thing working. I can see that there's a little wiggle in my line right here. In this instance right here, what I'm gonna do is shift and draw a line that would be a paint two line on top of the volcano or whatever we choose to put on fire. All right, and just like the idea of this being an inside curve, I'm going to also give this an inside curve opposite of it. It just makes a sense aesthetically and in terms of animation as well. I'm going to borrow this shape, and I'm going to give this one a little outside shape as well. And it's the same theory of getting that little pinch. I'm going to bring this to an outside curve. And this is looking a little repetitive. I've got like 3 little shapes right there that are just all the same. So I'm just going to make this one bigger. And I'm going to follow this whole shape right here. Something like that. A little wiggle. All right, this is now an inside shape, but that's okay. It's going to follow my original sketch. And remember that that is this oval right here. That's my 4th oval. I'm going to smaller part, medium right here, and then take it off the screen. So that's my first keyframe right there. All right, so now remember that in Toon Boom, I can go to the next drawing and just start drawing. And as long as, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll put a mark right out here just to establish that that's a keyframe, or I can use insert blank drawing, either one. All right, so I got my onion skin turned on, and I I can't see my drawing for some reason. Oh, sorry. All right, so now you see what I did right there. I was clicking on the wrong layer. What I want to do is I want to get rid of this stuff right here, because what I want to actually do is take this layout drawing all the way out to at least 32 frames. So I'm just going to hit the plus sign on my keyboard and take it out to 32 frames. That's frame 31, 32, 32 right there. Now remember that this is looking like there's a frame, but there's actually nothing there. And so if I just put my cursor on frame 5, I can't see the drawing before it until I open up my onion skin just a little bit more. So the first approach for doing this is setting your timing already on 4s, and I think that that's fine. So this one becomes so, but actually let's just talk about this for 1 second. One thing that you can do is you can do the breakdown position. We could do this drawing number 9. We could do it actually right here on drawing 5, and we can affect our timing in by doing breakdowns and then in betweens, as opposed to just drawing it straight ahead. I think that might make sense. So even though this smoke layer right here is smoke, we're just going to put an underscore and a capital R to remind us that it's a rough. So on frame 5, I'm going to just copy this. Remember, I'm looking at this position right here. So I'm just going to draw a very light puff of smoke on all positions for drawing number 9. I'm looking at this shape moving into this bigger shape right here. And so literally, if I take this edge of the smoke and this edge right here, the in-between would be like right here. And so following the track, I'm just going to put in that little oval just really lightly. And remember, this is actually our drawing number 9. And so if you wanted to make it drawing number 9, you could just push this out to draw to number 9. But let's not worry about the numbering just right now. Let's get the graphics working. For this bottom of the oval, you can see my mouse kind of wiggling. It's going to move to this bottom of the oval, and drawing number 9 for this position is right here. So the in-between for this oval going into this oval is right about here. And then I'm going to look at this point of the cloud and this point, and the middle is about right there. So just very lightly, this is the top of this puff of smoke. This is the top of that one. And the in-between is about right here. And follow your track out here. So that oval looks like about like that. And again, I'm just doing it lightly so we get it in the right place. All right, now we go from this one, this bigger oval, we're going from, I'm sorry, from this oval right here, if you can follow my mouse. Again, if I drew on this, it would be really hard to see it. But it's moving, the bottom of it is moving from this position into this position. So the in-between will be right here. And then the in-between going from here to here is halfway. And so you can kind of see how that smoke slows down right there. And then the outer edge on the right goes from this position to this position. So the in-between is about right here. About like that. All right, so on this key position then, what we have to account for is the new smoke coming up, because we did the movement going up from the first little puff of smoke, but it's not like it's going to just disappear. So, and we don't know what this looks like. If we go back to this first drawing and we can imagine that there's smoke coming out of the chimney itself, that puff of smoke might be like down here somewhere. And so that might help us figure out what the the distance is going to look like. And so it moves from this position into this position. The little puff of smoke would be like right here, and it's moving a little quicker. So we're going to be drawing things that we don't see yet. And the trick is that you don't want any of the lines that you're about to draw to be on top of any of the other ones, just like our pixie dust, because it'll stop the motion. All right, so, and I'm just kind of looking at this aesthetically. So I've got it smaller shapes, a lot of little detail right there. And then I'm just gonna hope that this little shape right here works. This little strange oval shape works. All right, so now we're gonna in between. What we see in the first frame is like there's a smaller little bit. So I'm just gonna draw that. And then the inside shape. So I'm just gonna cut in just a rough, and then we see that that little shape right there, this shape right there is moving into this position. Let's get that working. And then this inside curve, which moves into this inside curve, right? Oh, I'm sorry, wait, this inside curve here is gonna move like to this position. And then it has this outside curve, a smaller bit, and then the bigger keyframe. Right? And then there's a medium shape, and then this inside curve moves up and starts to disappear. Right? And then remember that this oval is what you're animating up. So get that outside shape right there and move it into this position. Now let's keep going. Your hands have memory, so let's just keep moving this thing upwards. What we're doing is that this outside curve for drawing number 1 is moved into this position. Now we've got these 3 shapes to contend with, and we see one of them is right there on our keyframe. So let's just do an outside curve and connect it. Get it to go off the screen just by that, and do your paint 2 line right on top of the other one. Just like that. Okay, let's do the bottom. Again, it's good to keep the same order of the way you're doing your keyframes so that you're not going to get into trouble. And your hands have memory. So what we see now is we're going to be, this first keyframe right here is moving into this keyframe, and it's going to bring along with it a smaller outside curve, a medium one, and then the inside curve that is the opposite of this. And then there's an outside curve here. And remember, this is our keyframe already. And there's 2 little bumps right there. So just go ahead and make another one. Smoke tends to get bigger as it's moving. I can see that there is an outside curve and then another outside curve that's smaller, and then an inside curve that connects to this shape. And then then this little bump right there, and then a smaller one, and then follow your keyframe. All right, and then there's an inside curve, which like basically just goes away in the next drawing. We won't ever see this inside curve again. You see the keyframe there, so just borrow an outside curve and then follow your keyframe. This is a nice big shape right here. So play with it and make another little medium shape. And follow your keyframes. So this oval is, this little point right here is moving into this point. So your in-between was there, and we need to go inside. So this little arc right here is moving, and we need to follow this at least for a couple more drawings. And this shape right here before it goes off the screen. Just like that. Okay, so that will end up becoming our breakdown position. I imagine that there's a way to do this, but in Maya, you can change the color of your keys and breakdowns right in the timeline so it becomes visual. But for us, this is our first keyframe. That's our second keyframe. You can kind of see it moving already. It's already got a decent amount of motion. So that's our breakdown position. All right, so now let's do this in order. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go to this position here. We're going to create a blank drawing. So now you can see it immediately changes on the screen. In order to see this a little better, we're going to zoom in on this just as much as we need. And let's just go and do this. So, and remember, now we're going from the green, I'm sorry, from the red into the green. We're going to do the same thing we did with this now. So now we're doing drawing number 5, right? So, and all the drawing number 5s, we're going to, and so we would need to do basically this is the secondary breakdown position, but they're all technically in betweens. So we're going to do drawing, we've already done drawing 1 and drawing 9. We're going to do drawing 5 right now, and then we'll do drawing 13, and then we're going to, and then I would leave you all to do the in-betweens. And it looks like I have just enough time to do this. So in my mind, the way I always usually do this is, that's a really strange thing to say, always usually, is in my mind, I have like that little mantra, red into green, red into green, red into green. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did for the breakdown. Is I'm going to draw just a real rough of that little area, that little volume of smoke. Remember that this is drawing number 5. All right, so then the red is moving into the green. So this is the left edge, that's the left edge. So get this moving up. All right, so remember, we're going from red into green. This oval shape is moving into this oval shape. So the outer lower edge of this green oval is right there. And the outer edge of the bottom of the red is right there. So the in-between is right here. And in many of your animation textbooks, there's a huge amount of attention paid to the idea of this being a tangent to the outside right edge of like this shape, and this being a tangent to this oval right here. And so the in-between would be right there. And we're following right on the track. And you've got to get this shape right there. The in-between, even though these lines cross over here, this is not the in-between. This is the in-between. All right, once again, we're going from red into green. And so this red oval is moving into this shape right here. So it's slowing down. And so the in-between looks like this. And that gives us our beginning. All right, so now we're moving from red into green. And the red down here was a small shape, and then this inside shape. Once again, I'm just gonna do my paint too. And I'm gonna mimic the inside shape, do a little miniature one here. Let's follow the top like we did before. All right, so we're going from red into green. So I see one small, and then a medium, and then another one, and then the inside curve. Hold on a second. I think I got a little ahead of myself here. Once again, we're going from red into green. So this part of the red right here, it's moving into this shape up here. Red into green, red into green. Okay. Getting my visual. Okay. Oops, sorry. Red into the green. up. So see this shape right here? I might want to bring this back just a little bit, because this little shape right here is moving into this shape. Then that inside curve is collapsing. So this shape is going into this one. So let's do a mini one and then like that, and follow our rough. All right, so now we're going from red into green. Red into green. We're going from this shape into this shape right there. Hold on, I have to reorient my eyes here for a moment. It's hard to do this and talk at the same time. All right, so this shape is correct. Let's just put this here and keep this as a large plume. We can always put a little bit more detail in there as we go through it. Let's do a small shape here and get it off the screen. Let's do our paint 2 line. All right, now let's do the bottom. It's always good to go from a medium to a small to a bigger shape. Then we have small, and then the inside curve, which is mimicking that one. And then we have a smaller, super small shape, and then a medium, and then a small, and then follow the curve of this puppy. All right, and then we have a medium bump right here, and mimic the inside curve here. Roll into a smaller one and follow this example here. We go from this inside shape right here is going to disappear. So let's just put like a little bit of inside shape and then follow your rough. This red going into green, it's just going to have a, so you see this red going into the green right there, we're just going to have a straight, pretty much straight in between right there. We've got this little outside curve happening right there. Follow your rough. Okay, red going into green. So these shapes right here, this little number 3 is going up here. So we didn't draw the other part of this bigger oval up here, which is fine. So we're just going to draw a medium and a small, and then we're going to go from red into green. So we're just going to make this a big shape like this. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a frame to this one. And we're going to go to the open frame here. And now we're doing, technically what we're doing is doing drawing number 13. And so once I make a mark on the board, everything changes. And it's a little more difficult to see, but that's okay. We can do this. So right now this thing is on 2s, which is strange, but that's okay. All right, so let's do the same thing that we did. We got to understand what we're doing. Where are we? This little puff of smoke is moving into this position right here. What we're doing is drawing 13. So, again, we could match this down here, but just pay attention to it graphically. This shape is moving into drawing number 1. We're doing a breakdown. So the left edge is right here, and the upper edge is right there. This is moving into this position. Just draw that in lightly. Let's go back to the next one. I'm going to limit this like that. All right, so this shape, right, you can see it. It's moving from this position, and I'm going to take the layout. I'm going to bring the blue on the layout up just a little bit so I can see it just a little more strongly. And the green as well, just so I want to be able to see it, because this is an important frame. Even though it looks a little messy, it is correct. I mean, you can go back your keyframes and make sure it's working. right? All right, so let's follow this. We've got red going into green. So this shape right here. Oh, I'm using the wrong color. Hold on. All right. Red going into green. It's slowing down. This red oval right here going into the bigger one. It's also pluming out a little bit. And it's getting closer together right there. Red going into green. So it's slowing down. It's like right here. All right. Red going into green. All right, so what we can do now is let's just take a look at this by using our G keys. I'm going to turn the onion skin off. And let's make sure it's working. All we've done on this drawing right here is drawn the placement for the volume. And so we want to make sure that those are correct. So let's go G key to the next key. And that's the one. So it's moving correctly, right? We've only drawn 4 drawings. So it's, and because this drawing here, if we screw this drawing up here on the layout, if we make a mistake on the drawing we're doing right now, or even the third drawing that we did, it would affect all the other ones around it. So we got to make sure we get it in the right place. Let's do this again. Let's study it. This is drawing 1. This is the second drawing. This is the third drawing. This is the fourth drawing. And I'm just going to use the G key again. It's going to take me back to the first drawing. Let's just study it. Let's follow one little bit at a time. So what I'm looking at now is this shape right here. If we did this correctly, then that shape should look like it continually animates all the way up in getting into the bigger piece of smoke. So it looks correct. Let's just kind of use our G key and keep going at it. It looks correct. It doesn't look like I made a mistake. All right, so on this breakdown drawing here, let's turn our onion skin back on and just look at this shape right here. So now this shape right here, this is blue drawing becomes red. And what you can always do is use your F key and then go to the G key so that you're following it correctly. So what I'm looking at is this shape right here, this little backwards 3 shape right there. And I'm just gonna mimic it and mimic the other one and go backwards and then add maybe a little one to connect to the new one that's coming out. Do your paint 2 line. Let's go backwards and then forwards. Hold on a second. This one's going into this position. And so we want this outside curve, a smaller one, connect it. It's really small, connect it. My intuition is that we might have to tweak this little bit right here, but that's okay. All right, once again, this is drawing number 3. This is drawing number 4. Borrow this outside shape. You know it's working. This is a medium-sized shape, right? You see that? And then there's a smaller one. And then we still have our inside curve right here. And that goes to a small and then to a medium. Follow your rough. Then we can see that this little red shape right here, and we don't see where it's going into because we don't have a drawing out here. So let's just get it working. Let's, oh, and it disappears because we can see that in this position here. So let's just get this to be a small little inside curve like that. Right, and then let's get this little bump to move, follow your rough. Let's get this shape right here moving. Take it off the screen, do your paint 2 line. And now the bottom. So the red's going into the blue. Follow your rough. Mimic this outside shape, then the smaller one, and the inside shape that goes along with it, and then the medium, and a bigger, and then a smaller one. Let's put a small one right there. It looks better. Follow this outside shape, and then we see this little nub, and then the inside curve right here animates to this, and the bump. Follow your rough. Now this little inside shape here is collapsed, but just for one last drawing, let's get it to curl inside it. Follow your rough. Careful, if these lines are right on top of each other, they'll die, they won't move. So I'm going to let it, I'm going to do a little bump right here, and then I'm going to go outside my rough. It just looks better. Do a small bump, and then this little bit is moving up to here. You do a medium one and then get it to go off the screen. All right, everyone okay? I don't see anybody yelling at me. All right, so now this one is going to just be a little tricky, because now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bring the layout drawing opacity up like almost all the way. And the reason that we're doing this is because we have to do the next breakdown position to the layout. In order to get this working correctly, it has to in between to the layout, or it won't look right, or it won't move right. All right, so what we're going to do right here is we're just going to start to draw. We're going to make a little mark right here that establishes the key. And what we're going to do is we're animating from this drawing right here, which is our blue drawing, into the layout drawing. And so what you can do if you're visually need a cue here, you can put like a little dot on just on the layout drawing, so that you know that that's a visual cue for you to where the main volume is on the layout, on the main oval shapes in the layout. All right, so go back to this drawing. This drawing has really nothing on it. It just has this little dot right there. So what we're doing is we're animating from this key position here, which is the roughs, into the layout. You see the difference? So let's start with this one. This shape right here is going to animate into that dot. So on this drawing right here, we're just going to animate this one. Oop, why is this not drawing? Oh, there we go. So we're breaking down the position from our fourth drawing back into now the fifth drawing, which is the layout drawing again. So let's do the same thing. We're going to go from red into the layout. All right, so this red is going into this position here. Oh, wait, I don't want to do that, because that line will not move. So I'm going to adjust it just a little bit so that it's over here. You can see that it's easy to get a little confused. All right, so once again, I always jump back to my layout so that I know where I'm going. So we just did this one, so now let's do this one. All right, so I'm on the right layer, I'm on the smoke layer. The red is moving up just a little bit. All right, remember it's slowing down up here. All right, so let's take this out one drawing here just by hitting the plus sign. And let's check it. Let's turn our onion skin off and check it. That's the drawing we just did. So go backwards. Does everything look like it's moving upwards? No. This shape right here is not moving up. So draw this shape in, go backwards, and then get this little mini loop, go backwards. Get this mini part, go backwards. Oops, hold on. Go backwards and get this outside shape. I'm sorry, go backwards. All right, see what I'm doing? So this little inside loop just goes away right here. Going, oh, I went forward, sorry. Backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. All right, and then let's do it with each part of the line here. Let's sort of onion skin back on so we get the parts. Backwards, forwards. Backwards, forwards. Backwards, forwards. Backwards, forwards. Backwards, forwards. Now you can see that it was a good idea to use this cartoon shape so that it was a little easier to follow. If we would have picked one of the other smoother Iron Giant looking examples, it might have been really hard to see. Backwards, forwards. And one thing that you might want to do is if you want to try one of those Iron Giant looking ones because it's interesting, then do this first and then smooth the lines out. Instead of doing these deep cuts, just smooth it over, if that makes sense. All right, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. So this shape right here is going forwards. Backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. I'm going to jump to my layout drawing. I want to make sure I get this inside curve in the right place. So that's my layout. All right, same thing. Backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. Something's not right on the bottom. I can't see it, so I'm just going to go key to key. Just going to go key to key. And sometimes what you can do here is that because you've got most of it already, and this is our last breakdown, you can kind of just draw it. It becomes a little bit more organic. So this is the technical equivalent of drawing straight ahead. So we got most of our keys and breakdowns laid out. And so now I'm just looking at this little plume coming up right here. That's fine. So now I'm going to draw the third drawing, and that's working. You know, this one could probably be identified a little bit more strongly. That's okay. That's okay. And this is the drawing that we're doing. That's going backwards. So this is what caught my eye. I don't know why I drew this position here. Let's make sure. So let's just follow this oval. No, it's okay. No, it's not. It's this oval right here is not moving correctly. It's a good thing. So let's erase this oval. And the connecting points that went along with it. Let's go back a drawing and forwards. Back, forwards. So now I want to make sure that this bit right here is moving to the right. So, oops. On this drawing here, I want it to move about here. Backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. So now it's moving correctly. Kind of an ugly shape. Backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. This outside shape, backwards, forwards. Smaller bit, backwards, forwards. Inside shape, backwards, forwards. Backwards, forwards. Backwards, forwards. Smaller shape. I'm going to erase this little bit right here. Come on, Toon Boom, stop. Backwards, forwards. Backwards, forwards. Small bit. All right, backwards, forwards. Backwards, forwards. Backwards, forwards. The exact idea of flipping in animation here is what we're doing. We're flipping. Backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, inside shape. That little nub, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. Okay, so everything is looking okay right there now. So that was a good fix right there. If we would have messed that up, we would have had to fix a whole bunch of stuff all at the same time. All right, what I'm going to do right now is we're just going to, my start frame is here, my last frame here is 50, but I want my stop frame to be frame number 10. And so I'm just going to put the stop frame at frame 10. And let's just take a look at this as we loop it and study it. And it's moving too fast right now. I mean, it's just moving way too fast. If this is bugging your eye, you can always stop this and add 2 frames to each one of the key and breakdown positions. Now I'm just hitting the plus sign on my keyboard. Oops, I did one too many there. All right, so now the key and breakdown positions are in 4s, and we're out to frame 20. So let's just take a look at it on the loop. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking to make sure that nothing is going backwards, that everything continues to move to the right. I'm looking at this one little inside curve right there, and that it looks like it's moving correctly. So let's follow that inside curve. That inside curve right here that starts should follow. And it looks like it does. And then it goes all the way up. So that's correct. So now what we would do is we would take each one of these key positions and do a drawing in between them. In order to do this correctly, we want this to be on 4s to begin with anyway. So let us put this on 8s. So I'm just going to add 4 drawings to each one of these positions. All right, 5 times 8 is 40. So that's exactly where we were at. One of the things that you're going to have to remember is that if we have on our layout drawing here, and I'm just gonna, now I'm gonna use my rough color to just do this. So we have 1 drawing, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 drawings. So we're just counting. Remember, we have 8 drawings. If the 8 drawings are on, will eventually be on 4s, then that is a total of, wait, hold on. 8. All right, so let's make sure of our counting here. 8, 16, 25. Something doesn't match the counting. Hold on one second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. All right, let's do the artistic thing here and worry about the numbering later. As long as our drawings are working correctly, what I want to do is I want to identify how many keys and breakdown positions that I have. So on my layout, I'm going to have 1 key position here. I have a breakdown position here. That's my second drawing. And then I have my intermediate breakdown. So I have 1, and then 2, 3, and 4. All right, so my intuition is that this drawing that we did right here to hook up is actually only needing to be on 4s. Let me open up the onion skin just to check this. So what I'm getting at here is that I think that in order to get the loop correct from the last drawing number 13 into drawing number 1, I think I might have actually done drawing 15. All right, so what I'm looking for is just lines coming together in those last 2, and I think that they are. So this drawing, so we did drawing 1. This is drawing 1. This is drawing 5. This is drawing 9. This is drawing 13. And then this is technically drawing number 15 right here. So just keep in mind, this is a key. This is a key. This is the first key. This is the first breakdown. This is the, that's the first in between. This is the middle breakdown, drawing number 9. This is drawing number 13. And then this is technically drawing number 15. It is moving correctly. That's one of the main things that you want to do correctly, is get all the parts moving. But hold on a second. And that timing looks pretty good there too. So once again, we're just going to study this and look at it. And I'm going to make sure that each part is moving correctly. And then I can go into these and do the breakdown. So I can go to this drawing here, put in a breakdown drawing here. I can go to this one, put in an empty drawing. I can go to this one, and this one. I don't need to do this one. What'll end up happening with this is that I'll bring this down to 4s. And then the other ones will end up filling in the time. All right, so I'm going to save this. I haven't saved this. I guess I did save it. All right, so that's how to do the smoke. Next week we'll talk about how to do the fire, but you can kind of see that going from keyframe to keyframe to breakdown to in between from our layout can be just a little tricky getting in to the positions. Remember that one of the easiest ways to do it is to just animate that little oval first and get that oval position working first. Now, I don't know why I screwed up this position with this little guy right here. I don't know how I managed to do that. I'm really good at screwing things up, but I'm also really good at fixing things too. So let's just take another look at it here. Now it's flashing there at the end because I changed the duration of this timing. Let's pull this back out so it doesn't flash. Just to make sure everything's moving in the correct position. All right, it looks pretty good, pretty doable right now. I would want to make sure that all of you have at least your keys, breakdowns, in-betweens ready to go for your smoke next week. I think that one of the things that you want to do is think about where that smoke is going to go in your layout. So now is the time, when I said in week 1, all those weeks ago, is to go back and make sure that you're doing that drawing correctly. Now, I don't want you just copying my little volcano thing here. And I know that in the essence of accuracy, that you've just been instructed on how to get that smoke to move from the left to the upper right. I think that it might be a challenge for you to get it to move from the right to the left. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're using your own layout, your own sketch. So when you're looking at this is good, it works. When you're looking at whatever this was, it's good, it works. This one is, in this example here, I was only following the little notes. I believe I did that smoke straight ahead. That demo was straight ahead. This demo here, these little purple shapes were supposed to be holes, and instead I colored them in purple.
Can you share your screen?
Sorry.
Thank you.
In this example, these little purple things were supposed to be holes in the smoke, and it's like at the last minute I changed my mind. I also think that I animated this straight ahead. And so like this little bit of smoke right here is moving backwards right there. See it? Right there. It moves backwards. So in order to prevent anything from moving backwards, I think that this is always just the best way to think about animating smoke. You're really just animating the main oval forms, and you're making sure that they're tracking correctly. I had done an example one time where I had just taken those ovals and I just copy and pasted the ovals because I was trying to see if I could do it faster, and I screwed everything up. Everyone ended up being really confused, more confused than it is by just looking at the demo as I did it right now, and following all those little bits of detail that you draw in on the very first layout drawing, which becomes your drawing number 1. You want to make sure you're not going to get yourself into trouble. So don't put a whole bunch of detail into your layout drawing. The example that I gave you is good enough. There's tons of stuff to follow just with it. And hopefully next week then we can talk about fire, and then we'll talk about rain, and we'll talk about the water splash, and putting it all together for a comprehensive volcano. Lightning in the volcano too.
Yeah, are we concerned about the laser blast this week or no?
No, I think that, like I said in the beginning of the class, try to work the laser blast into a layout for your final. Yeah, it's really simple. It's part of the curriculum, but it makes, why would you put a laser blast in the volcano? You know what I mean? Unless you had like an alien spaceship coming in and blasting the mountain, and the mountain exploded, and then that became a volcano. But that becomes more of a animator's narrative instead of something that's cycling for 36, 48 frames. Now you've got something that's more cinematic. And that, remember that we're trying to do these projects in 2 or 3 weeks, so that if you did an alien spaceship coming in, laser blasting the mountain explodes, and then a volcano happens, that could easily be 15 or 20 seconds worth of narrative. And I'm not quite sure that the outcomes for this class are based on that. I would rather you nail the idea of how to get the smoke cycling and make sure that there's a great aesthetic in that smoke. And I think that's enough, because a whole bunch of you still need to finish your tornado. So there you go. There's your outline for the day. This was being recorded, and so I will have the recording up in a couple hours on YouTube. Okay, good question, Mr. Mark.
Yeah, this means for the smoke, we use 40 frames.
It's going to be, yeah, something like that. It's going to be like 38, 32 or more. You can vary your timing by how you place the oval plumes of smoke on the arc. But the way I did it, I'm going to have to, I'll finish mine, right? I'll just like tighten up mine, because the way that my layout was is there were 8 drawings on 4s, which is a total of 32 frames. So it's 8 drawings on 4s, which is a total of 32 frames. If you wanted to use 16 drawings on 4s, then that becomes 64 frames. It's just a little bit more work. And remember that as you get into going from 8 drawings into 16 drawings, it's a lot more clear where the in-betweens are. But going from a breakdown back into a key position, the distance is big enough that sometimes you get lost and you accidentally make things go backwards. So start with just the 8 drawings for next week, and make sure you get it right. Make sure nothing's going backwards. And then the other part of it is to make sure you finish up your tornado.
So is this due next week or in 2 weeks?
This volcano will be due in 2 weeks, but next week we're going to add fire and lightning and a water splash, just like you saw in my example. So what's due for next week is the main motion of the smoke. Okay? All right, we'll see you all next week.
See you next week.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
Yes. Did I see a question? No. Okay, bye.